welcome, welcome. I didn't mean to interrupt whatever you guys were talking about. Is there anything you want to finish up?
Well, I actually had a
Oh,
question.
Yeah,
yeah,
go.
great.
So earlier I asked if these recorded sessions are available to all students or only some students.
So this class, because it's available to everyone, will be available as a recorded class to everyone. It's basically whatever class is available to you live will be available to you as a recorded class. And that's those mirror each other one to one. So if it's for premium, then it's going to be available for premium recorded.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Cool. James, you feel like you know me. Oh, that's so nice. Cool. All right. Well, does anyone have any other questions before we get started? I feel like a little deja vu here, but jump in if you have anything.
Hi, Takila here. This is my first class with you, new to LSAT Demon, and I always try to access the syllabus that's provided in the email confirmation for class.
Yeah.
And every time I click on it, it's bringing me to the the LSAT Demon page to log in. And then once I log in, all my stuff pops up, but it doesn't take me directly to the syllabus.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that is. But I don't know, Sophie, if you have any insight as to what link is even in there. But we'll have to look into that and figure that out. I will say that Demon 2.0, which we're waiting on the events section, is almost, I'm saying maybe like probably realistically 2 weeks, 1 week, 1 to 2 weeks. And then we'll be into such a different and better system that hopefully all this will be moot. So anyways, I'm sorry about that. Okay. Nicole, you have a cool faded background. It almost looks like you're like otherworldly. You're like half.
You don't want to see what's behind this blurred background in my messy room. So it's for you.
Hey, that works. Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. Okay. So tonight we're going to do a game. And here's the deal with the game. I'm going to give you 10 minutes. You just give it your best shot. I realize that some of you may have never done a game before at all. I mean, presumably most of us have at least experienced the joy or pain, depending on how you think about it, of a logic game. But even if you haven't, it doesn't matter. Just try your best to read the setup, answer the questions as best you can. And if you're doing the game in the current Demon, which is probably true for the vast majority of you, don't hit submit. In other words, I don't want you to see the right or wrong answers quite yet. I want you to do the game for 10 minutes. We're then going to talk about that game in small groups. And then when you're talking in your small group, you can hit submit as you're talking about the answers and try to figure out which one's right or wrong. And then we will talk, and then we'll come back to the big group, and I will go through the game setup from the very beginning, okay? There are more than one way to do games, but we're going to try to at least zero in on some of the better ways, and we can go from there. Does anyone have any questions? I'm going to drop the game into the chat, and there's a link for 1.0, which is the current Demon, or 2.0 for those of you who are already using it and want to use it. If you don't have a 2.0 account yet, probably don't worry about it tonight, just so you can just jump in and do the game. All right, I'll give you 10 minutes or so. Good luck. Have fun. There's no other way to do the games.
5 minutes later.
That was a little over 10 minutes. If you're not done, that's okay. You can actually just wait a little bit to join the groups. Sophie, are you comfortable doing the breakout rooms, 5 to 6 people? So go into your groups and say, hey, this is the way I set it up. This is the question I struggled with. How did you guys get to the answer? you may not be able to get through a whole lot, but I'll give you 5 minutes or so to talk. Yeah. So, Sophie, if you can send everybody to the breakout rooms, that'd be great.
A few moments later.
All right, guys, what'd you think of that game? Good? Kind of good? Not so good? All
It's the
righty.
rules, Ben. It's the rules.
It's just the rules. That's all it is.
Yeah, they were a bit confusing.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I got messed up on.
Let's go through them.
You got it.
Claire, you have like 2 whiteboards behind you?
I'm in a classroom at school, so I can study. I can't study when all my roommates are home.
I hear you. That's cool. You got bigger whiteboards than I got.
I know. You need to work on that. I'm just kidding.
Let's hope this works. Otherwise, I'll turn it over to you. Okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, just what you wanted, right? Okay. Okay, cool. Well, let's jump into this game. What do we got here? We got exactly 3 films. GHL are shown during a film club's festival held on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Okay, so the Thursday, Friday, Saturday element is super common through so many games, and it immediately tells me that this game has a super high chance, I mean, I don't know for sure, but of being some sort of ordering game, right? People don't talk about Thursday, Friday, Saturday unless they want to order things in relationship to them. It would be odd for this game to be a purely grouping game in which you group things into those days, but don't take into account their order. So I'm anticipating some ordering element here, but we'll see. Okay, each film is shown at least once during the festival, but never more than once on a given day. So there are 2 rules there. Each variable has to appear at least once. That is the norm in the vast majority of games. So I'm not going to ignore it, but I'm not going to write anything down. I expect these variables GHL to all be used at least once, and I'm really looking for the absence of that rule. If that rule doesn't ever come into play, if the game never says you have to use each variable at least once or exactly once, then that's unusual, and I take note of that, right? But this is super common. Okay, everybody's got to go at least once, and never more than once on a given day. So I have Thursday, Friday, Saturday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say X, X, and then cross it out. In other words, I can't have G, G, or H, H, or L, L on the same day. So I'm going to use X to represent all 3 variables and say they can't go together, even though they all have to go at least once. Questions? Okay. Let's see here. Okay. On each day, at least one film is shown. Okay. So I have to have at least one on each day. So I'm going to put that bracket under there to show to myself. I better put somebody there. Films are shown one at a time. The following conditions apply. On Thursday, Harvest is shown, and no film is shown after it on that day. Okay, so I have to put H on Thursday. I could put H right here because Harvest is shown on Thursday, but they told me that it was the last film, right? And no one is shown after it. So yeah, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and actually flip this around. So in my original diagram, I focused on I have to have at least one on each day, but I'm going to say, wait a sec. Okay, instead of focusing on the fact that I have to have at least one on each day, I'm going to turn this game around and focus on the maximum. So the maximum number I could have on any given day is all 3, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and say, let's add these other two slots, and then I'm going to put H last, right? I'm not saying that I have to fill these all up. I'm just now going to focus on the whole board so I can keep track of whether H is last or not. Questions? Okay. So H goes last on Thursday. On Friday, either G or L, but not both, is shown, and no film is shown after it on that day. Okay, so G or L has to be last on Friday. So I'm going to write G/L. That tells me G or L is last. This phrase right here, but not both, is super important. I can't have another, like if I have G here, I can't have L up here, which means if this is G, then
There's only one.
there's
H.
there's only one of them, so I can only have one more variable here, and that would be H, right? That means I'm just going to go ahead and cross this out because I'm never going to have three things on Friday, right? Friday can only have at most two. It's going to have either G or L, and that could be it, but it could also have H. On Saturday, either G or H, but not both, is shown, and no film is shown after it on that day. So this is the same thing over here. This is G or H is last. I can only have two things at most on that day. So I'm going to leave it at that. I want to think about the setup a little bit more before I go into the questions. For example, on Thursday, I could have more things, right? I could have all three. So I could have G, and I could have L. I'm putting them in parentheses, though, to just signal to myself that, yeah, they could go there, but they don't have to go there, right? Like, but those are my only possibilities, right? There's nothing else that can go there. So I'm going to go ahead and write them in just with parentheses. I'm also going to put an arc here going back and forth to signal to myself that they could come in any order, because I have no idea whether G comes before L or L comes before G, or whether they even come at all, right? They might not be there. Okay, over here, this could be empty. There's nothing that says this has to have two. Remember, each day only has to have at least one. But if something does appear here, it is going to be H, right? That is the only possibility. So again, I have to put it in parentheses to signal to myself that this is not required. If it was required, then I would just write an H straight in there, right? Same here. I can have a G, or I have to have a G or an H, but I can't have the other one. So the only thing that's left is L. So this is going to be L. If anything appears at all, right? You got to keep that in mind. That's why I'm putting parentheses around those. Now, another thing that I'd want to ask myself is, okay, could I split this game up, right? G or L are my only two possibilities. If this were G, what else would I know about the game? The reality is I don't know that I would know a whole lot more. I mean, if this were G and this were H, which it always is, then I know that another L would have to appear somewhere, but that other L could appear here, it could appear here or here. So knowing that this is G doesn't really tell me a whole lot more. And knowing that this is L does tell me I have to have a G somewhere. It could be here or here or here. So assuming that this is one or the other doesn't necessarily lead to a lot of immediate, like, hard information, like, oh, I know this is true. So I'm just going to go ahead and go into the questions. Some people might enjoy or like splitting this into worlds, like, oh, what's the world when G is at the bottom of Friday? What's the world when L is on the bottom on Friday? But I'm just going to skip it because I don't see any immediate, like, concrete inferences. Sound good? There's no right or wrong answer here necessarily. It's just my preference. This is one of those games where you can go either way, I think. Questions about this setup before we go into the questions?
Ben, I was wondering, how were you able to infer that that was the setup or the structure so immediately, especially from that one rule? In other words, I just put I got everything besides the 3 layers that you put. How are you able to intuitively find that out from the first rule that that's what they were talking about?
Okay, so they initially told us that we had Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right? So
Got
that
it.
was fine.
That was fine.
And then they said that each day has at least one film. So I put my 1, 2, 3. And then when the first rule started talking about, hey, Thursday is last, I guess I didn't make it explicit, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, well, if you're last, how many
You
things
mean
can
H.
come
Sorry.
before you? Wait,
You
what?
meant H, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I said, but I meant H.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. H has to be last. And so how many could come before it? And that's where that other rule, this rule right here came into play, because that rule says you can't have something appear more than once, right? So then I'm like, oh, well, the max is 3. I'm going to put H at the bottom of that 3.
Copy.
Cool. All right. Question number 6. This is our traditional first question, it looks like. Yeah, which one of the following could be a complete and accurate description of the order in which the films are shown at the festival? Now, this is not a question that starts with if, but because it's this like super common, just what is this? This is a like a full scenario question. It's like we're gonna give you a full scenario and you just tell us which one of these works. The easiest way in my mind for the vast majority of these questions is just to grab one rule and eliminate any answer choices that violate it. So I'm going to start with the first rule, which is H has to be last on Thursday. So answer choice A, H is last on Thursday. So that's fine. Answer choice B, H is last on Thursday. So that's fine. Whoa. I just lost the game. That's not fun. Okay, hold on. All right. Yeah. Answer choice C, H is last on Thursday. Answer choice D, H is not last. Okay. So in answer choice D, L is last. So I'm going to cross that out. For answer choice E, again, H is last. Now, I know I'm taking a decent amount of time to go through this, but if you know exactly what you're looking for, you should be able to go through these answer choices really fast, right? I'll try to do the next one faster. On Friday, G or L has to be last. Okay, Friday, L is last in A. Friday, L is last in B. But wait, G or L. So this is not the rule I was looking for, but in answer choice B, it says Friday is G and then L. That's a problem because G and L, we can only have one of them, right? So I'm just going to go ahead and cross that out right now. C, L is last on Friday. That's fine. E, Friday. We have L and then we have H. H can't be last on Friday. That's the rule I was looking for. So E is out. At this point, B, D, and E are out. I only have A and C. On Saturday, G or H has to be last. That is true for both of these. So that's not going to get rid of that, which means we're going to have to go back to the original passage to look for other rules. Okay, everyone has to show up at least once. That's our basic rule. Answer choice A doesn't have everybody, right? Answer choice A is missing G. So the answer has to be C. Cool.
I have it's maybe a dumb question, but
No, go for it.
on the LSAT Flex in the actual test, is there any ability inside the test module to be able to cross out like in the Demon we can hit the X and it.
Yep. Yeah. So the new Demon in particular looks a lot more aesthetically pleasing than the LSAT Flex officially, but the functionality is the same. So we're not giving you anything extra, which would just end up being like a handicap in the end. So yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Quite okay. Question 7. Which one?
Wait, quickly,
Yeah.
can I ask, as you go along, can you just throw in if you have some timing strategies? Because for me, it's just the timing to to think about it so much. I might get it right, but I'm losing time trying to get it right.
Okay, so the timing so first of all, the timing strategy for the setup was actually taking more time and making sure it's as complete as you can get it. That doesn't necessarily mean that every slot will be filled in by any means, but it does mean you're going to set up the game, write down all the rules, and then think about how the rules interact with each other before you go into the questions. So although I'm asking you to slow down, that's actually a timing strategy because it will make you go faster through the questions, like extraordinarily faster.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then for question 6, the timing strategy there, I know I'm like verbalizing everything, which is slowing me down, but to grab a rule and just eliminate any answer choice that violates that rule. That's only for that first question though. That strategy would not be the fastest way to approach other questions. For the next question, which is question 7, this question doesn't start with the word if. So I did the first question, even though it didn't start with the word if, because it was our traditional first question. But from this point on, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to skip any question that doesn't start with if, because if questions give you an opportunity to set up a diagram that you may use to answer non-if questions. So again, that's a timing strategy. I'm essentially doing the questions in an order that could help me, doesn't always, but could help me down the road. And you'll see that here. So I'm going to skip question 7 and I'm going to go to question 8. Question 8 does start with if. And what that means is they're going to give me some new rules that only apply to question 8. And I'm going to create a diagram, at least in this case, to incorporate those new rules. So it says, question 8, if limelight is never shown again during the festival, once greed is shown. Okay, so I can show limelight before greed, but once I show greed, I can't show limelight anymore. If that's true, which one of the following is the maximum number of film showings that could occur during the festival? Okay, right now, the maximum without any additional rules is 7, right? Like I have 3 and then 2, 2. So that's 7. But we have this new constraint that L is never shown again after G. To me, that means I want to push G as late in the game as possible, right? The later I push G, then I can continue to use L at least until that point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create, let's see here. I'll do it right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. These are out. We have H. And if I want to push G as late as possible, the latest I could do G is actually right here. Right? Like I could do G or L, G or L. I might as well do G here. And then I want to add as many films as I can. So I'm going to add L here. I can't add G because I want to push that as late as possible. Over here, I'm going to have L because, again, I don't want G coming any earlier than it needs to. That's going to make H go here. And then let's see. Oh, yeah, L. I can put L here, which is fine because I can have L on the same day as G. It's just that once G is shown, then I can never show L again. Other than this slot, which would end up being G, I can fill up this whole game, which is a 6. So the maximum number of films is 6. Questions on this question?
I had a quick question. You did push the G all the way at the end, but why couldn't we just put G right before H on Thursday and just put that L over there? If that makes sense.
Yeah, so if I put G on Thursday, then after that point, I can't use L ever again, right? Okay. So let's say I did L, G, H. I could do H, L. No, I can't do that. I would have to, I guess I could use G again. Let's see what that does. So if we did this,
That's how I got it wrong. I put G
same
in
thing.
slot 2 of Thursday, and then I just counted up 1 on each day on Friday, Saturday. I got 5. That's how I did it.
Aha! You got 5. Okay, well, I'm really curious how this plays out. So let's see here. We got H. We put G here. We could put L before it, right? Because the rule is you can't show L after G, but you could show it before. So we have LGH. Then here we couldn't do L ever again. So we'd have to do G, H, and then we'd have to do, actually, it wouldn't matter. We'd have, you could do either one, but let's say we do H. That's still 6. So you still could get the answer because you can't put L here. Right? So maybe you missed a variable, but this way works as well. You just have to max it out. And the thing you have to do here is you have to make sure to put that L above that G. Otherwise, you're not going to get to 6.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so question 9. If greed is shown, here I'm going to make a little space here. 9. If greed is shown exactly 3 times, harvest is shown exactly twice, and L is shown exactly once, which one of I must be true? Okay, well, if G is, let's start with G. That's the easiest. If G is shown 3 times, here's my setup. We know that we have to have G on every day. So this has to be G, and this has to be G. This is always H. And then there's a G here or here, right? Because you can't have 2 G's on the same day. So if you're going to have 3 G's, you have to have 1 on every day. And the only place that the G's can go is on the bottom over here. So G, G, G. Then it says H is shown exactly twice. Okay, well, I have H here, which means I have to have 1 more H. I can't have an H on Saturday because it's G or H, but not both. So that means this H has to go here. And then there's exactly 1 L. Yeah. Question? Nope. Okay. So there's exactly 1 L. That could go here, but it could also go here. So I'm going to have like L going back and forth there. So G could go back and forth, and then L can go back and forth. Which one of the following must be true? Okay, all 3 films are shown on Thursday. Well, they could be. I could have HGL or HLG, but they don't have to. So A is wrong. B, exactly 2 films are shown on Saturday. Same problem. Could be true, but doesn't have to be true. C, L and H are both shown on Thursday. Again, could be true, but doesn't have to be true. D, Greed is the only film shown on Saturday. Could be true. We could throw L over here, but it doesn't have to be true because L could be on Saturday. E, H and G are both shown on Friday. Yes, that always has to be true no matter what happens with the other variables. So that's the answer. Cool. All righty. Question 10. If L is shown exactly 3 times. Okay, this is like the same kind of thing. 1, 2, 3. I hope that's big enough. I don't know how small my whiteboard is, but maybe Claire can help us. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Cross those out. H is always here. If L goes 3 times, I have to do L on every day, which means one of the L's is going to be going back and forth here. This L has to go there. That's the only place it can go on Friday. And then here, L has to go here. That's the only place it can go on Saturday. The next thing is H is shown exactly twice. If H is shown twice, I could have an H here, but I could also have an H here. I could have it either place. I think what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to split this into 2 worlds. So I'm going to say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. H. Oh, geez. It's a weird H, but H, L, 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 going back and forth. I hate this H. It's going to kill me. My OCD is coming out. Anyways, H could go here or H could go there. So in this world, I'll put H here. In this world, I'll put H here. And then what's the last variable? The last variable is G, which only goes once. That has to happen here because it's either G or H and it can't be H. Here, G can't go there, so G actually has to go here. So G is going back and forth with L there and going there. We don't need this anymore because L can't move around. Any questions?
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock. All right, I don't know. That's not really a question. It's more a declaration of time. Cool. So which one following could be the first film shown on Thursday? Well, it could be L, it could be G, or it could be L. Those are my only possibilities. So the answer is D. Now, we skipped question 7, so I got to go back.
Question.
Yeah.
I know we did 8 already, but I was under the impression that it was 3. I'm trying to understand how it was 6. The number was 6. Was that for question number 8?
Yeah, it is 6. So this is our question for 8. We're just trying to maximize the number of variables that can go, right? And so what I did is I put G the last possible spot so that L can go as many times as possible. And that would force G to go here. That's the last place that G could go. And then I just tried to fill out everything as fully as I could. So I'm going to avoid G, which makes this L. I'm going to put in my H. I'm going to put in my L. I always have that H, and I'm just going to add another L. I can't add another G, though, because then that would mess everything up with the Gs.
Because I thought that the rule said that we couldn't have the same letter twice in the same column. So were you saying to add another L with Thursday, like HLL, or?
No.
Because I see we have 2 X's for Friday and Saturday. So we have L in Thursday and we have L in Friday and L in Saturday.
That's
so
correct.
I'm still seeing only 3 L's. So did you write another chart in order to
Oh, you're
rearrange
counting
it?
the number of L's for question 8? Is that what you're doing?
I think I was. I'm trying to make sure I was on the right question.
Yeah, question 8 is just asking for the total number of films that could be shown.
I did the same thing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, interesting. It sounds like you're not alone. So the question says, if L is never shown again during the festival, then which one of the following is the maximum number of film showings that could occur during the festival?
Oh, okay. Yes, I misread that.
It's okay. Let's just take a half second here to talk about another maybe even more common confusion with these number questions is sometimes they will say something like, if L is on Thursday, how many other films do you know for sure? And the key word you got to focus in on there is the word other. Are they asking you for how many other films do you know exactly where they go? Or do they drop the word other and just say, how many films do you know exactly where they go? In which case, you would include the L that they asked you to put into a spot. I don't know if that makes sense, but just watch for the word other. Is it included? Are they asking you for the remaining variables, the other variables, or are they just dropping that word and include the variable that they included in the if clause?
I have a quick request. Can
Yeah.
we look at why E is wrong on 10?
No problem. Okay, so E is wrong because L has to be above H here, and either G or L has to be above H here. So in terms of the films that could be first on Thursday, only G or L could be. H could not be. So H will be on Thursday, but it won't be first.
I did the same thing as the others on question 8. I completely missed the word first. I mean,
Yes, this is
wasn't it
yeah,
full moon yesterday or something?
I don't know. But regardless of the moon's state in the sky, you just got to make sure to, highlight these words after the fact, and then become, you'll become like a shocked, animal, in cages when they shock animals is a horrible example, but it's like we get shocked by these experiences and then we become sensitive to them. So I doubt that, if this happens one more time, you'll probably never, look at the word first again. So, okay. So question 7, this is the one I skipped because it didn't start with if. It says, which of the following cannot be true? Now, I have all these diagrams, so some of these diagrams may actually disprove some of these answers, right? It's like, oh yeah, this could happen or this could happen. So we'll see. But answer A says, H is the last film shown on each day of the festival. Well, H could be last here, it could be last here, but it can't be last there. So that can't be true. I'm pretty dang confident about that. So I'm actually just going to pick that and stop. Was anyone tempted by any other answers here? Okay.
Yeah, I got C. Greed is shown second on each day of the festival, and I was just thinking in relation to the 1, 2, and 3, knowing that it couldn't be in slot 2. Basically, it had to be last.
Yeah, greed is shown second each day of the festival. Okay. So if you had LG, greed would be second, right? If you had HG, greed would be last, but also second.
Yeah, that's what messed me up. I was thinking in relation to its space.
Oh, like you're like, oh, that's second. Yeah. So that's one thing that's a little deceptive about my diagram. This is actually
Your diagram helped a bunch. The way I did it, not so much.
Okay. That's all right. That happens. The only pressing question remaining is how does Frank defy the laws of gravity? Frank, you are upside down.
Hey. So,
I asked Frank that too.
I know, like I can't figure out. Sorry, so I can't really figure. I don't know what's happened really.
Well, I think I'd be confused too if I was upside down all of a sudden. So I wish
don't mind me.
there are stranger things out there. So okay, good luck.
This last number 7.
It was actually so funny.
I don't.
Wait, go ahead. Sorry, what was your question?
Yeah, for question number 7, I don't understand how harvest is like the last one on Friday, or it can be.
No, that's the thing. It can't be. So the question says, which one cannot be true? And that can't happen. It can't be last on Friday. So that's the answer.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question for number 10.
Yeah.
I was looking at the 2 worlds and I was able to, follow along how you got it. What my last, I guess, doubt was the first world where it says L is interchangeable with what? Because I was looking how it said L can only be used 3 times. Is that right? Did I read that question right?
Mm-hmm.
And so on the first world, well, L is already used up 3, and then H can only be used 2 times, which has already been done, and G once.
Mm-hmm.
So then wouldn't that mean that there can be nothing on that space?
Oh, you're talking about right here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. G cannot go there, but L can go there, right? And the question is asking, which one of the following is a complete and accurate list of the films that could be the first film? So who tell me everyone who could be first. And I look at this world, I'm like, well, L could be first, so I have to include that in my list. And over here, I see G and L could be first. I don't know the order actually. So I have to include G in my list as well. L was already on my list because of this L, so it actually didn't tell me any information. I think the way you're thinking about it is you're like, oh, what's the complete and accurate list for this diagram, and what's the complete and accurate list for this diagram? It's really just what's the complete and accurate list for all the diagrams. So what are all the possibilities? And that's L or G.
Okay, so basically the first world didn't necessarily mean that something had to be in that blank space.
Yeah, in fact, nothing can be. But
okay, I think that's
L
what threw
is
me
first,
off then.
right? L
Yeah,
is first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, understood. Thank
Cool.
you.
Ben, I have a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Has there ever been occasion when you've done all the if questions and had to come back to the ones that are remaining and not be able to answer any of those remaining questions with what you've already devised? Has there ever been, ever?
Oh yeah, no, okay, so let's clarify one thing here. I don't mean this come across the wrong way. It's always been possible to answer those questions because the information is somewhere in the rules, right?
That's it.
For sure. But yes, there are a lot of cases where maybe my diagrams aren't sufficient to cross out the wrong answers, for example.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. It's really just like sometimes, and it wasn't true in this game. Question 7 was pretty easy, right? It was just like, hey, which one of the following cannot be true? And we're like, yeah, H can't be last all the time. So bam, that was out. But sometimes these non-if questions are extraordinarily difficult and they become exponentially easier when you can just like look at a diagram and be like, well, I know that answer is wrong. And you get rid of like 2 or 3, and then you're down to 2, and you may only have to test one of them, as opposed to testing like 3 or 4. Again, that's not ideal, but by doing them out of order, we can eliminate some of that testing.
Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Any other questions?
Jeanette has had her hand up for a while.
Oh yeah, sorry, go for it.
Yeah.
Hi. Ben, I think we
do.
did.
Jeanette, I'm sorry, it was hidden in that like lighted area. Go for it.
All right. I think we did this test a long time ago in some other class. I don't know, but the way that you actually helped, I remembered it. The way that you diagrammed it is that you put the Tuesday, Friday, Saturday at the bottom, and then we worked up from there, which with like H being last, because then you kind of visually it looks as H is the only one that can go there and nothing after it, right?
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really good way, and I just wanted to share that because you did that at one time, and that's how I diagrammed it.
Yeah.
It helped me this time too. So
Yeah, you're flipping around. No, that actually may have been Nathan, because I think he does do that for this. Like
maybe it was Nathan. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was you.
We're pretty much the same person. We just have different forms.
Yeah.
So Nathan put like Thursday, Friday, Saturday underneath his diagram, and then he built up from there, right? And you can definitely do that. I almost always just put my groups at the top and then work down. So I just kind of work in that framework, but that's just a matter of form, not substance.
Yeah, I think it was just me remembering from that particular question, because my first thing was to do what you did, and then I erased it. But it did help in this instance, but I don't know how you be able to spot that really quick on a time test. So, but I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Go for it.
So I actually did it sideways. Like I did Tuesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, but sideways. I didn't do it vertical.
So that doesn't matter. In a lot of ways, it's totally fine. I will say that, okay, so there are some games, right, where you have groups along the top, and then you have groups along the side. And if you ever end up in that situation, my strong preference, although there are exceptions to every rule, but my strong preference is to put any groups that have inherent order to them on the top. Because unless it's like a game talking about up and down, in general, it's easier for me, because I've done so many ordering games left to right, to think of them in those terms. Now, that's really a function of my previous game experience. And so obviously you could get used to doing it the other way, but I think if you do ordering generally left to right, that leaves grouping for up and down. And so, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Cool. Good questions.
And like,
Yeah.
question. So like I think I'm struggling like a little bit with like just diagramming in general. What's like a great way I think to practice and like practice like with the questions and stuff like that? Should I be focusing more of like drilling, or like should I do like time sections? I just am unsure kind of like how to like really practice that part.
Yeah. So if you're really struggling with games, I would actually veer towards drilling for two reasons. One, you can just do one game and then learn from it, right? As opposed to like throwing 4 games at yourself and then feeling the need to learn all of those. There's like some sort of bug in here. Also drilling is going to recognize, especially in the new demon, if you're taking too long or whatever, and it's going to keep you at level 1 games, which is where you want to get used to this territory, right? When you do games, you're just gonna like mess up a lot of them, so don't worry about that. That's actually just going to give you the experience you need to feel comfortable with them. But one thing you can keep in mind is that most games, like 98% of them, are either going to ask you to order things, group them together, as we kind of saw here, or a combination of the two. There are some exceptions, but that's the vast majority of games. Like, let's order some stuff together, let's group some things together, or let's do both of those things at the same time. And so if you kind of have this general framework of, I'm going to order things from left to right, I'm going to group things into columns up and down, or do those two things at the same time, then that should account for most setups.
Hi, Ben. I have a quick
you.
question, like a general one.
Yeah.
So right now I'm doing an LSAT study plan that's like taking like logical reasoning, like every section at one time, and then like teaching, like for example, logical reasoning, like 7 or 8 like different categories, and then like drilling on those, and then waiting, and then like moving on to do one section at a time. Is that the best way to attack it, or?
Oh, wait. So you're saying they're having you learn like 7 or 8 different logical reasoning question types and do nothing else except logical reasoning?
Yeah, until like we pass that section, like drill like probably like 25 questions of each until we get to like 75% accuracy, and then move on.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would shake it up. So even if you want to focus on LR for some reason because you're not doing as well in that section, I would still rotate through the 3 sections, because otherwise you get out of touch with the others. One way to think about this is it's kind of like training for a triathlon. Like, you could go run and then that same day swim. But if you ran and then tried to run some more, it's just like too, taxing on that one thing.
Okay.
I wonder if him and I are doing the same program, because I actually just left the program and switched to this program because I was doing like 50 quantifying questions and 75 flaw questions, and it was just like all at once, and you couldn't go to the next lesson until you completed it.
Yeah, I would actually suggest not doing that for a variety of reasons. Even though in the demon, and particularly in the new one, you can target certain question types, even then I would suggest that people target at least 2 different types so that you don't get used to what they're asking and expecting that. That is just not how the test is done, right? But even then, it's just not something to worry about. I would just let the demon decide, because it's going to give you a random assortment of question types, and the underlying skills are the same for all of them. So they may seem different on the surface, but the real core skills are being tested. And a good study plan for a lot of people starting out is you do like 1 game a day, 5 to 10 logical reasoning questions a day, and maybe 1 reading comp passage a day. Or yeah. And if that's too much, then you just spread that out over 2 days. And then eventually, as you start to get better and faster, then you can start doing more. But you're really rotating through each of them.
How do you suggest studying for the last week and a half to 2 weeks leading up to the exam?
Well, I would make sure to include timed sections, like you do a time section and review it, because you got to get used to that experience if you haven't already. But other than that, not a lot should change. If you're studying the way you should be, then you just keep doing that until like there's a day left and you stop studying. That's it. Yeah.
How often do you think we should take practice exams in that week and a half to not burn ourselves out or take too little?
Yeah, so for most people, they should be taking a practice exam once a week or once every other week.
Right.
And so I wouldn't change any of that. I would just keep doing that. So you know, the last week and a half, you're going to probably do one full-length practice test. And then the rest of the time, you're going to do drilling and time sections. And then you go take the test. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Ben, real quick, can you just show if they hadn't given the classic rule where they said each film is shown at least once during the festival, how you would have diagrammed the absence of that rule?
Oh, well, that's a good point. I think I was a little bit misleading when I said I would like take note of that. I wouldn't actually, I don't know that I would draw anything. It's just that it would be extraordinarily important and in some ways a little surprising. It's like, oh, wow, it's one of these games where I don't have to use every variable. And so I'm taking at least mental note of that. Like, okay, I don't have to, so I could use some of these maybe variables more than once, but some of these may never come into play, which is super rare, right? In almost all games, it's like, oh, I haven't used L yet. I better get L in there. Otherwise, I'm going to have a problem.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I almost feel like I take that rule for granted very often. So the fact that you said sometimes it doesn't show up, although rarely, that's definitely good to know.
Yeah, it's usually what messes people up. They're like doing that game and they're like trying to force variables in. They're like, oh, I don't understand. This has to be true. No, it doesn't, because that variable doesn't even have to be there. So it really, I'm looking for this rule because it itself is not too, exciting, but the absence of it is a big deal. So I want to confirm that it's there.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. Okay.
I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was this game, was it in the difficult end or the easier end? Because sometimes I feel like I'm okay in logical reasoning. I can get 17, 18, and then they give me a game like this, and then I'm like, holy crap, I'm just not as good as I thought. Or...
Yeah, that's all right. So this game is a level 2 out of 5. So it's not one of the harder ones. It's not the easiest one either. But sometimes a game, if we miss a rule or misunderstand how to set it up, then it can become harder than it is generally.
And one more question.
Yeah.
As to LR, is there an advice you can give me? Because sometimes I can get 19 out of 25 correct, 17, which is just about the range I'm trying to go for, because I want a mid to higher 150s. But sometimes it's like I go down to 13 or 12. Like it's just so inconsistent. Is it like something that's normal that you've heard of, or?
Yeah, absolutely. It's first of all, it's very normal. But are you completing all 25 questions?
Yes, I do all of them, and sometimes I even have like 3-4 minutes left because it's not a question of time for me at all. But it's just
Wait, hold up. So you're only getting at most 19 correct, which means you're necessarily missing at least 6 and you're finishing early. So you're going way too fast. I would rather you come to me and say, hey, I can get 15 out of 16 correct in 35 minutes. And then I have to guess on the rest. Once you can start getting 15 out of 16, or even better, 16 out of 16, then you're at a place where you can start doing maybe one more question. So then you shoot for, 17 out of 17. That's how you get consistent, is you master the ones you get to and you do fewer questions. So don't let anything go. Become the owner of every question you encounter, even though you don't finish a bunch of them.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
I had a quick question to ask you. In your professional opinion, I am registered for the April test, which I'm sure a lot of people are. And I'm just contemplating if I should take the one in June or should I go for the one in April, because we could always change it. What score do you think we should be getting on our own in a practice test where that should be the deciding factor?
Well,
I know it's a tough question, sorry.
No. I mean, I think most, if not all of us, should be shooting to break into the 160s at a minimum, ideally higher. But if you're below 160, you really have to have a plan for what you're going to do with law school, right? You're probably going to end up paying, or you're going to go for free, but at a pretty regional school. So you have to know what you're getting. You're setting yourself up for a tough situation. So I would shoot for a minimum of at least 160. And if you're not within 2 or 3 points of that, a couple weeks before the test, then you probably shouldn't take it. You should probably shoot for the next exam. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi, I have a question.
Yep.
How do you know, are the if questions, okay, let me rephrase. Are the if questions an automatic indicator to create worlds?
No.
Or not necessarily?
No. So for question 8, which started with if, I didn't create 2 worlds, right? I only just did the original diagram. In question 10, no, I didn't do that in question 9 either. But in question 10, I had 2 options for H, and I was like, oh, well, if I knew exactly where H goes, then I might be able to know some other things. So I went ahead and did it. Not that I had to. I didn't have to, but just
So how do you know what setup you're going to use?
Well, there's
whether
not,
it's grouping, a combination of grouping and ordering for some questions.
oh, well, hold up. So this game was both grouping and ordering, and that is going to, once I figure that out for the original setup, that is going to trickle down through all the questions. Nothing's going to change about that. So whether or not I created worlds here didn't hinge on whether this was like, oh, is this like an ordering question or a grouping question? No, this whole game is a combination of ordering and grouping. So that's why you could call it, if you wanted to give it a name, a hybrid game. But when I got to question 10 and I started setting up the diagram and I got to H, I think it was, I was like, oh, this second H can only go in 2 places. If I knew exactly where it went, that might help me make other decisions. And so I decided to just create one world where H was in one of those slots and another world where H was in the other of those slots. And that was it. I didn't have to do that. I could have left it kind of loose and free, but I just thought it would make it easier. That's always what I'm thinking about when I'm getting to these crossroads. I'm like, oh, there's only 2 options for H. Should I create 2 worlds, one for the other? We had that debate with G or F. It was like, oh, should I create a world where G is in one and L is in the other world? And I was like, I don't know what that's going to lead to, so I decided not to do it.
Okay, because I was able to get most of the questions right with that very first diagram that you created.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, now you did say most, so did you get some wrong?
Yes.
All right. So you like games is just like actually any section of the test. It's a section you need to get every question you get to right. And so it sounds like you need to do a little bit more work in the questions. That's all.
Thank you.
Yep.
Ben, I have a question.
Yep.
Do you have any advice for RC? Like my main weakness is RC. I mean, it just really, my problem is when I'm reading it and I finish, It's actually, I don't know, the time is very in essence and trying to speed it up. And then when I go to questions, so I get the summary, like I understand what's actually the main points. But once they like asking a specific question, sometimes I have to get back to the passage again and read it again. And then just I feel like I'm not doing it right. Like, do you have any advice? Like, how can I improve myself? I'm not really doing well on passages. So
Yeah. Well, so keep in mind that the problems can occur in generally three places. One, your understanding of the passage. Two, your understanding of the question. And three, your understanding of the answer choices, right? But your foundation is going to be in part one there, the passage. And the fact that you're going back and you're not sure says to me that you're reading the passage too fast and you're not visualizing it enough to own it. One thing to keep in mind is that these passages are only 15 sentences long. Yeah, maybe 13, maybe 16, but they're not that many sentences. So you just have to slow down and make sure you understand each sentence very clearly so you can see what the author is saying. And almost imagine yourself talking to the author in real time. And if you're having a conversation with someone and you really want to understand what they're saying, if they say something that doesn't make sense, it's not good to just sit there silently, because everything that comes after that sentence that didn't make sense is like slightly harder to follow, right? Half your mind is like thinking about what was said before, and half your mind is trying to follow, to see how everything fits together, but you have this like gray area that you missed. So as you're reading the passage, if you encounter anything that's not crystal clear 100%, then you have to stop and reread that sentence and maybe think about it. And then you get like, oh, okay, I think I know what you're trying to say. And then you keep going. That's going to slow you down in the passage, but you are very unlikely to have to go back more than once, if at all.
I also found out I know the answer. I go to questions, I pick up the answer, but the way they paraphrasing, like they mixing up, like they're not really picking up from the passage. They're just like, and then you see the answer, just like I have to go, what is it? Like they're not really clear. Like they're not really actually pointing. Like you know the answer, but the way they're paraphrasing, like they're just changing it. Sometimes negation or reversal, like those two they think. And then just another question: do you actually underline once you're reading passages, like, or like make a mark or underline, or you just like memorizing it? Like
I don't underline it, and it's not really memorizing, because memorizing is actually a sign that you don't understand what the words are saying. You're more just memorizing the words themselves. You have to remember that the words are a means of conveying an idea. And what I want to do is I want to see that idea visually. And if you can see it in your head, that is super easy to remember, right? People can see movies and then tell you what happened in that movie, and sometimes in great detail. And a movie is exponentially longer than these passages.
right.
The problem you're having with memorizing or remembering these passages is that you're not actually turning them into visual things, things that you can see and like grapple with the author.
Anticipating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I had a question. So if we're taking the August LSAT, will we know which one is the experimental section on test day?
You won't know during the test, but you should be able to figure it out after by talking to other people, maybe. Actually, I don't know. With the online format, it may still be very difficult, but you won't know during the test. You will get two sections of like something, right? You'll get two game sections maybe, and you'll know that one of them is the experimental, but it's going to be extraordinarily, well, it's going to be impossible to figure that out during the test. So you just have to treat them all as real sections. Cool. All right. Any other questions? I know we went a little bit over. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, Ben. I wanted a follow-up question to what you were saying, like doing like 3 sections every day. So how many logic games was it like when we're starting? And also like when do you advise we start doing like practice tests, like timed ones?
Yeah. So, okay. For most, I think for most people, like one goal to have in your head is, I'm trying to clear this out so I can write this down, but would be one logic game, not like an entire section, just one game in drilling, and then one reading comp passage, and then 5 to 10 logical reasoning questions. And that's all in drilling. So it's not like you're doing a whole section, right? You're just doing one of those things. One game, one passage, and then 5 to 10 logical reasoning. If that's too much though, sometimes people, when they first start out, all they can do in one day is one game, because the game takes them 30 minutes and then reviewing the game takes another 45. And they're like, okay, that's enough. My brain is fried, right? If that's the case, then you do that game that day, and the next day you do one reading comp passage and 5 to 10 LR. But within a couple of weeks, you might be able to do all 3 on one day. And then you just let the demon decide. Like, it will figure out what games and what passages and what logical reasoning questions to give you. You don't need to think about that.
Okay, and when should we start taking like time practice tests?
Oh, time practices, yeah. So I would say if you're scoring below the 160s, I would only take a full-length test every other weekend. Just because they're not as efficient to review. But once you start scoring in the 160s or higher, then I would take one probably every weekend. Not that you have to. What you can do is you can alternate these this drilling with every 2 days or every 3 days, do a full-length timed section. And that's not a test, that's just a 35-minute section. Right? So what you're doing, there's basically 3 modes of study. There's drilling, there's time sections, and there's time tests. And you want to do, especially at the beginning, a lot of drilling because it's targeted and it's easy to review. But then you want to bring in 35-minute sections and then occasionally bring in practice tests. They're necessary. We have to do those practice tests, but they're also like not the most effective way to review because you have to do so much work and then you're kind of exhausted and you can't review until the next day. And it's just like that disconnect kind of undercuts their value in terms of learning.
Okay, so we should like gradually go into the time section and then the time.
Yeah, you can go into the time section pretty quickly. Like if you did this for 3 days and then you're like, okay, cool, now I'm going to do a game or a full length 35-minute section, you know, that's fine. And then you go back to this. The thing about the time section is you can do it 35 minutes and then you can immediately review it, right? But all we're doing is we're trying to narrow the time between doing a question and reviewing it, because the faster you get feedback, the easier it is for you to learn from it, right? Like if there was a 24-hour delay between touching a hot stove and feeling burned, we would be pretty bad at avoiding hot stoves. Right? Like people would touch it and then the next day they'd be like, damn, it's just like, you know, it wouldn't, like there would be a lot of problems. It'd be like, oh, was that the hot stove I don't even remember touching it. But when you do a question and you get it wrong with drilling, it's like you get that immediate feedback, right? And that kick allows you to learn and figure out what's going on. A time section's a little bit more delayed. A time test is even more because a lot of people just don't review it till the next day.
Okay, and you, so like if we start doing like time sections, you'd say like do like one, like just one type, like game one day and then like reading comprehension the next.
Exactly. Yeah, the only exception to that is like when you start drilling in the demon and taking tests in the demon, especially, well, in particular in the new one, it's going to be a lot easier to tell. If you have a much higher rating in one of the sections, then maybe you don't need to do that as much, right? It's like, hey, you're doing pretty well here. We're giving you these questions. You're getting them right. We're putting your rating up, but your rating is lower in reading comp. You might skew this to do more passages. Maybe you do one game, 2 passages and 5 to 10 LR. So you can just get a little bit more time on that weak point, but you don't want to deviate from this in the extreme. Right? Okay. Like essentially your plan is like the extreme. It's like, oh, let's go do this LR thing. And you're so disconnected from games and reading that when you come back to that, it's kind of like, bleh. And so you start with this as your default assumption, and then you tweak it to your situation, but move gradually.
Okay, thank you. And also, I gotta say that I love the podcast. And like someone else said, it's just like, oh, Ben's like right here, and I like listen to you like periodically. So you keep me informed about LSAT news. So I thank you.
Oh, cool. Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. That's good.
Yeah, same. And I was gonna ask if we should pay for law school and if we should read the question stems first.
Yes and yes. Thank you so much. Now, if anyone's unsure, don't pay for law school and do not read the question stems first. I would hate for anyone to walk away with those misconceptions. Cool. Yeah.
I've got a question.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Was someone speaking for me? I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good. Go ahead.
Oh no, ladies first. Go for it. I can wait.
Thank you. Okay, so I've been doing pretty well in logical reasoning, and I've been taking full tests every weekend.
Yeah.
And by the time I get to the reading comp, it's like my brain just like, I just can't retain it as well as I would when I do it in like an individual like section. Like if I'm just doing like a 35-minute reading comp section, I'll do much better than when I take it on the actual test. And I'm taking the April test. Do you have any, like, what should I do leading up to the test?
Oh yeah. So what you're saying is like if you do a test and you do like games and logical reasoning, and then reading comp is last, that's just like a mental drain. Whereas if reading comp were first on your test, you'd be okay with it.
Yeah, for some reason I don't. But like okay, does the order ever change, or is it always the same? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so every test that I've taken, reading comp has been the last one. So I've never like done it any other way.
How many tests have you taken?
I think 4.
Okay, yeah, I guarantee you it will change eventually.
Okay.
Probably your next one. But one thing you could do is you could do, I mean, one way is to do 2 reading comp passages back to back. I mean, sections, right? Like you do one and then you do another one, because the first one's really going to drain you. So then when you do the second one, it's like, ugh. But you just get used to it and you add more reading comp drilling to your daily practice.
Okay. And I mean, it's a section that I thought was going to be the easiest, and the section I thought I would need to spend the least amount of time on. And I think that's just like totally showing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's very common at first for it to be your easiest, right? Because it's the most natural. But I feel like of all the 3 sections, it is the hardest for me today because it's the one that requires the most focus.
Yeah.
Games, right? You can almost, like, I hate to say check out because you don't want to check out, but it's like you can just like write the rules down and then they're there and you don't even have to like think about whatever they said before. Logical reasoning is just like a minute exercise, right? But reading comp, it's like, okay, I got to pay attention for 5 minutes and then I got to think about those questions. To me, it's the most mentally intense section. And so by drilling, I think you're going to just increase that capacity.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that's honestly like the only thing that I would be able to do is just like suck it up and get used to it, because I mean, I have to sit through it. So
yeah. By the way, what's your hat? It's like a lightning bolt. That's pretty cool.
It's the studio that I work out at. It's a Pilates studio, and that's their logo.
Oh, okay. Cool. Go Pilates.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Other questions? Great.
So yes. So kind of 2 things. One, I followed you and Nate for a while, but I decided to, because I followed you guys, to sign up for the Demon, and I appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, no
I followed like your YouTube videos and whatnot. So here's my thing. I might get like a LSAT Demon stare from you, but I've never actually taken a practice test, full length test. I started on test 25. So what would be a good test now that I'm in the Demon to like dive in and go for, I guess?
Oh, I would just take the ones that we have scheduled on Saturday. They're the more recent ones. And if you follow that schedule, then you know you're not going to like overlap anything we do in class. And it honestly doesn't matter. like honestly, it doesn't matter. But if you're at all mildly, concerned about which tests to take for practice tests, you should probably be taking ones that are more recent, and the ones we have on Saturdays are more recent.
Okay.
You know where that
Thank you.
schedule is?
And the calendars, right?
Yep, the Google calendars. Yep.
Okay.
Cool.
So
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are there any like really discount like for 2 weeks, like short ones for Demon?
What do you mean?
LSAT Demon?
Like a discount off the Demon?
Yeah, for like 2 weeks to participate for the April to sort of.
Oh. If you're just starting now, not really. I know if someone like has a subscription, they can like, extend it a few days, but
okay,
you have to have that's really like to end it, not really to begin it. So
okay,
I'm sorry.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem.
Ben,
So just,
sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I think you've been waiting longer than I have, so go ahead.
Okay, so far some takeaways. I'm sure there's plenty more to take away. If you're not scoring higher than a 160, you should be taking a practice exam bi-weekly. Second, every 3 days time section, and then you encouraged everyone, I think, to take the Saturday test with everyone else, correct? All right. Just making sure I have homework.
Yeah. Now, I mean, I wouldn't say that those are hard and fast rules. They're just general rules. I mean, some people scoring below 160 could be taking a full test every weekend if they have like the time and the energy to review those tests after they take them. It's just that even then, I would say take a full test one weekend and the next weekend take a time section, because you can immediately review it as opposed to waiting for that test to be over and sometimes going till the next day, It's all about getting immediate feedback, at least as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And just to follow up about something you mentioned a while back about how it's a good idea of trying to get 15 out of 16. And you were referring to the amount of questions. I'm assuming 15 out of really 30 questions.
Well, okay. So games typically has like 23, 24 questions. Reading typically has like 27. LR has 25, 26. What I'm saying is in the 35 minutes, don't finish. Instead, try to do the first 15 questions or the first 17 questions. Whatever, for some of us is going to be the first 5. You have no business doing 10 questions if you can't get the first 5 of 5 correct. But if you can get the first 5 of 5 correct consistently, then by all means start shooting for the 10. But you really can't move on from 10 questions until you get at least 9, ideally 10 of those correct. Otherwise your accuracy rate is too low and you're actually building bad habits, because basically like people who do all 27 questions but only get 15 of them correct, well, that means they just got 12 of them wrong, and they are, for better or worse, that's what they're learning to do. So you don't want to do that when you're doing a time section or test.
Thank you.
Yeah. Someone asked, when is the best time to start the Demon subscription? Beginning of the month? You can actually start anytime, because whenever you start, it's a month from that date. So it's not like if you start in the middle of the month, you're only going to get half the month. You'll get the whole month until the next date, whatever that is. It's kind of like Netflix, I guess. Cool. Any other questions?
Hi, sorry. I've been trying to raise my hand, but I don't see the button. I apologize about that.
No worries.
Okay, so my question is, what is a healthy amount of time to study each day?
Okay, that's a good question. I would say for most people, it's somewhere between 1 to 3 hours. But in general, when you first start studying, it's going to be much closer, if not maybe even less than 1 hour. In other words, it's just like working out, right? If I sent you to the gym and I'm like, okay, go do all these weights and do this and do that, you're going to be like, ugh, you're going to just be like, your body is going to be in shock, right? But you start working out, you start doing a half hour every day, and then pretty soon it's pretty easy to do 45 minutes and then an hour and so forth. The same is true with the LSAT. It's just your mental muscle. And so I would say you start out with an hour and then you slowly extend it from there. But if you ever feel like you're getting burned out, just pull it back. There's nothing wrong with doing a good hour every day.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep.
So I was wondering if you think the same for if someone was trying to get back into studying for the LSAT, it is to do that same method of doing it slowly, I guess, before getting back into it fully, in a sense.
Yeah. If you've been out of it for a while, then it's always better, I think, to start with a goal that you know you can accomplish and just start doing that daily and then expand it as you feel like you can. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope the class was helpful. Sorry about the snafu at the beginning. We will figure out what the heck happened and hopefully never do that again. But have a good night, and I will talk to you guys later.
Ben, thank you so much, man.
Thank you, Ben. Have a good night.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you,
night.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. You were a big help too. Appreciate it.
Hey, Ben, I was wondering if I could ask you a question quick at the end.
Sure, go for it.
I just didn't want to ask it during class because I felt like it was kind of individual and I didn't want to like waste other people's time.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if I could ask a question just about the Demon AI in like 1.0 versus 2.0.
Sure.
So I signed up for premium a couple weeks ago and started doing the drilling on 1.0. And I got to like 4 difficulty on LR pretty quick because this is like my second time around studying.
Yeah.
The first time I actually only gave myself like 6 weeks to study for it. And so I was scoring around like 168 before the test, but then a lot of unimportant stuff happened and I ended up with only like a 162. So I'm like back into it now.
Yeah.
And then I got an email from someone at the Demon like to switch me over to 2.0, and I started doing like LR questions on 2.0, and for some reason, like even though I got like 14 out of 15 questions right in a row, it was like still giving me like 2-level questions. And so like does it just like drill you longer at the lower levels first, or?
Well, not necessarily. So one thing it does now that it didn't do before is it takes into account the amount of time you spend on each question. So it's possible. It also factors in how you do on time sections and time tests. So for example, if you're guessing in time sections or time tests on any questions, you want to make sure that those are marked with as no time. I don't know if you've seen that feature. Like you want to mark them that you didn't attempt them so that it doesn't think that you just tried and got them wrong. That's if you didn't actually attempt it. If you attempted it and you got it wrong, then of course you want it to be included. But I don't know if like you're spending too long on those logical reasoning questions, it's not going to give you as much credit for them, even if they were harder, right? And so then you're not going to go up as quickly. We've also made some tweaks to the algorithm as there's about 10 to 15% of the users are over in the new one. And as we've seen all the data come through, it's like, okay, we made some tweaks. But maybe email Ben at lsatdemon.com and just tell me what you just said. And then I can find your email address and go in there and just see if it looks right and see like what kind of data is showing up on the back end. I mean, if you got 14 out of 15, it should bump you up, but I don't know. It'd be great to look at the details and see what's going on.
Okay, yeah, thanks. That's super interesting to think about how all that comes together on the other side.
Yeah, it's definitely a more complicated algorithm. What I've seen so far, some of it has been surprising and we've made some tweaks, but for the vast majority of cases, it seems like the right outcome, right? Like it's like, oh yeah, you're going up, but maybe not as fast, especially in the games and reading comp. Because it's like it took you too long, right? That was one of the problems in the old demon is you could spend 30 minutes, get everything in that game correct, and the demon would be like, oh, you must be a master, and give you a harder game. It's like, whoa, not quite. 30 minutes is too long, right? But it'd be interesting to see what's going on with your LR and see how that's all playing out.
Yeah, that's fair. And I might have like left my computer open and like got distracted by a couple things maybe when I was studying sometimes. So maybe that's it or something.
Yeah, have you seen the pause button in the top corner of drilling?
I saw that recently, like today or yeah.
We might need to put a message the first time people do drilling so they know it's there, because I think I've heard that from other people as well. But anyways, yeah, if you leave, you want to hit that pause, because otherwise it's gonna think you took longer than you did.
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Like everyone else said, I listened to your guys' podcast, which is what got me on the demon. So I'm super excited to study with like you guys for this time
Oh,
around.
cool. Yeah, no, good. I'm glad you're here. So that's awesome.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Yep, you too.
I'm sorry, I have one last question, I promise, for today.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, what I wanted to ask you was, I know I printed up the calendar as I was talking to you guys. I'll probably sign up for the LSAT demon, but then there are a bunch of classes. So how many classes can you do? I know there are some live classes, there are some regular classes. So how many can you do a day? I guess with the luxury of having time, I guess.
Yeah, assuming you have the time. With the live subscription, you can attend all of them. I don't know that I would do that, but I would definitely sample a few each day and see which ones really click for you, right? And then start coming to those weekly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, not every single one on like taking all 5 the same day, but I'm just saying, like, is there like a minimum, like there's 2 week points you have, you can take like 2 classes, or then you can take like 3 classes one day. Like, that's what I'm trying to ask.
Yeah, I do know that some people come to every class. I don't I don't know how they're physically able to do that. That's all. It's amazing, but you can if you want, especially at the beginning. Maybe if you're trying to explore and figure out what works for you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, and thank you for giving this class to us. I appreciate that. You take care.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Ruth. I hope that wasn't too late for you. I don't know what you're.
Yeah, no worries. All good.
Cool. By the way, where are you? I'm in Virginia, Northern Virginia.
I live in Brooklyn. Yeah.
Brooklyn. Okay. Cool. Is it cold there right now? It must be cold.
No, it's gotten really warm. It was like 80 over the weekend, which was kind of fluky, I think. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, we'll see you guys later. Have a good night.